Hello. So I guess this is day one of me uploading my tactics sessions. Um I suppose I don't really need to justify why I'm doing this, but I'm going to anyway. I guess for the purposes of the viewer, I suppose if you are a lower rated player, you can attempt to learn from my thinking or whatever and how I try to figure out what's going on. And I guess if you are um, high rated player or around my strength or close, you can. I mean, I guess you can try to solve the puzzle before me. I don't know how enjoyable that is compared to just doing tactics on your own. Um, or you can just why if this provides you entertainment value for some reason, or even just something to listen to in the background. Anyway, for me, this kind of first of all, it kind of ensures that I'm like articulating like a proper thought process as opposed to just playing the first move that comes to mind. And also, I'm hoping that this will give me some accountability to do more training on a regular basis, and that someone will, if I don't upload anything, someone will ask me where the tactics video is. So I'm on Lee Chess for now. I'm just doing the normal tactics set. I might go to Chess Tempo another day or bring out or use a book or something. But okay, for now I'm on Lee Chess, so we'll do the Lee Chess normal tactics set. So I am currently about 24. I'm 2406 tactics rating, which is sort of I've been my tactics rating has been a lot higher than this. I've been doing these puzzles in a sort of low effort way recently. So we're going to try to get that up, but obviously not focusing a great deal on the actual tactics rating, but more so on just trying to be sharp um, with these uh, with these puzzles. Okay, so I haven't really been looking at the position yet, but it's been on the screen for a little while. I mean, the obvious move is to play d8 queen. Um, I mean, I also don't think there are any other sensible moves. I mean, this is I normally at this point I would just play the move when it's clearly the only move that makes any sense. Um, although, what was I going to say? I suppose there's an element of, you don't move until, so you sort of train calculation from like a couple play sooner. But I'm also just going to play the move because it doesn't make any sense to not play D8 queen and then to take here. And then yeah, I mean H2 rook H8 obviously wasn't good. So G4 obviously intending, I mean two pawns on the sixth generally beat a rook, so that would be what black is aiming for. That I kind of suspected that um I was probably in time with King D3 because I mean for example H2 rook H8. Oh wait a minute. No, I'm not in time with that, am I? H King D3 H2 rook H8 G3 King E3 G2 presents a little bit of a problem. Oh, but I can start with rook h8, no? Because I'm stopping both h2 and g3. Um Equally, yeah, like something like rook d3 would allow h2 and going rook I mean rook d1 doesn't look great. So I am guessing rook h8 and this is normally the point I just play this move because I don't really feel like calculating anything else, but I'm gonna try to actually establish some good habits this time. So rook h8. Obviously, there's no G3. Well, I mean, I suppose you could play G3 and then after Rook takes H3, play King F4 or something, or King G4 even. But I could go like, for example, Rook H8, King F3, and then I can start pushing like with B4, take. Um, and then like I'm extremely like in time as long as I meet G2 with Rook G8. I'm extremely winning the pawn race. So on rook h8 as well, I suspected if king f4, I could start with b4. Let's say take, and then you could, I guess, play g3 then, because on rook h3 there's g2. So on g3, okay, that actually does become kind of scary. So what was I doing? I was going rook h8, king f4. and then I played b4, take g3, and then I don't think I can actually go with um, rook h3 because of g2. So that does actually confuse me. So in this case, is there any sensible alternative to rook h8? I didn't think so because I'm not in time with king d3. Because on h2, I gotta go rook h8, and that gives black an additional tempo, g3, king e3, g2, and I am not in time because, yeah, obviously. So rook h8 then, king f4, and then I was just pushing my pawn. If I were to play like, I mean, just I don't suppose king d3 helps somehow. On like g3, I could no, but that doesn't work. So there, on it, my head is starting to hurt already. But it's fine. Um, so there, king f4. Again, like there's very much the possibility I'm just being very stupid. So wait, what was the problem with rook h8, king f4, king d3? It was g3. Right, okay. Right. Um, okay, so now I'm confused. Because rook h8, king f4. I mean, rook h4 or something. I didn't see the point of doing that after king f3. No, I mean, well, even king g3. I mean, on king f3, like both pawns are sort of frozen, but like after b4, take. Um, I guess on g3, I have rook h3, and the pawn is pinned. If he went king, you know what? I'm gonna play rook h8 just because I don't see any other move. Oh, and the puzzle ends. Cool. So that means there's more than one way to win. So on king here, oh, you can just do anything. A4. Somehow I didn't like this. Oh, and here you go. Right. Okay. But right. So on king f3, you have rook h3. On king here, oh, you can. Oh, right. Okay. This is what I was missing. On g2, once you've chased the king back, you now have rook g3, which you didn't when the king was on f4. And if you go this here, this doesn't work because of king here. Right. And then this doesn't make a ton of sense because you have to go back and then you've given him free time to go king h2. Right, because on this you can just go. Not entirely sure why I was going b4 every time instead of this, but whatever. B4, yeah. Okay. So yeah, that wouldn't have worked, but I just have to make like literally some move because g3, which I thought that's why I was kind of discouraged by this king f4 move because I thought g3 was a genuine threat because on takes you have g2 and you can't actually stop the pawn. But I hadn't seen at this exact moment the in between thingy rook h4 check because on here this pins the pawn and you're not close to being in time with this because I mean a4 whatever b4 also and equally yeah if you go king wherever this no longer suffices for black so that's what was throwing me off because I thought that g3 was a really scary threat but realistically you can even just completely waste a move. I assume this is a wasted move. You can do this and there's no threat at all. Okay, so that was interesting actually. Because that just because of missing G3 Rook H4 check, it made that whole thing a lot more difficult for me than in reality was. Because if you see that, then the game is more or less over immediately, and you don't have to do a ton more, or at least the puzzle is more or less over, and you don't have to do a ton more thinking. Okay, so we're down a lot of pawns. I have noticed that. So what's going on? We're down like 4 pawns. but the white king is out. Like there's, I don't know, bishop h2. Does that ever make sense? I don't know. Like I can go rook h4 check, but I didn't see the point of doing that. Uh, oh, I have queen f3. I don't know why I was like completely blind to queen f3 existing before this second. So yeah, queen f3 um looks pretty strong because I mean I'm threatening this. What even do you do to defend? I suppose you could like c4. I mean I was gonna say h3, but like I can take it, right? Um so it's c4 as like a, yeah, defensive move to stop the rook from going across. I could play, I suppose, queen h3. Queen h3 because, okay, if queen g2, you're like at least taking the bishop, and then I still have a very strong attack. If you go f4, then okay, wait. So what happened? Okay, I gotta go back to the start because I got confused. Oh, I took one of the f pawns. So after take c4, queen h3. If you go f4, like I could play rook b2, and I'm threatening. Yeah, I'm threatening queen h2 mate. And if you play, well, okay, queen g3, I still take out h6. And if you go rook f2, then that seems pretty bad because of like, first of all, takes in queen h2. Or I was gonna say bishop c5, but I suppose you probably have queen takes. My calculation is so bad right now, but okay, this is like so obviously correct. And then like it forces, yeah, I mean h3 doesn't feel like it makes sense to just give up this pawn for no reason. If you did that and then you played f4, I could go rook e2. And then yeah, on c4, queen h3 still seems pretty strong. Okay, c4. Yeah, and then right, I was going queen h3. Now, any other sensible moves? I mean, rook e5. However, my concern was like on check and takes, for example, what's my next thing? Because he seems to just about have all the squares covered. Like g5, for example, is the square that's covered. So I was thinking queen h3. And it seemed, yeah, and on queen g2, I take here. And I got my piece. So like I'm, well, okay, I've a piece for three pawns, but also like white's position is very clearly a wretch. Like you're threatening things like this and here even, or even for the sake of material, grab this pawn if you wanted to, and also activate the rook. So that's extremely dead. Um, okay, okay. So materially, we're one pawn down, but the situation is rather precarious that I'm not especially worried about being a pawn down. Right. So the first move that came to mind was, of course, rook takes g5 check, which I doubt makes any sense after queen takes g5. But I mean, that's something to be aware of. The fact that the bishop is pinned, I suppose. I mean, something like bishop f4, which I mean, it threatens rook takes g5. So on bishop f4, what are white's defensive options? I mean, like if you play king h1 or whatever, my suspicion is that bishop takes g5 will cause material to drop. So, by the way, g6, no, g6, I can just go rook takes g6 check. Um, so on bishop f4, I was wondering about queen g4, which gets out of the, it doesn't get out of the pin because I have rook takes g5 anyway, and on bishop g5, I have queen h2 mate. Okay, so that's quite cute, I think. So after this, what are White's sensible moves? Because I don't think this does anything because you still have the issue of this pinned bishop, right? So like I can take here and win a piece. King f2 also looks horrible and seems like I can do the same. Like queen c2 check might be good, but I can still at worst do the same thing. So this seems pretty strong on queen h1. I mean queen h1 does get out of the pin. However, I mean, that's wow. Okay, queen h1. Maybe, I mean, if I take king f2, queen c2, and I don't even have queen c2, right? Because the queen is pinned. So like, I mean, this is so silly. I could check and take, and somehow I could go rook h5 to unpin. I mean, okay, it's just this, right? And on there, I have this anyway, right? Because and then he's forced to play like queen g5 because you can't take with the bishop. You get mated in one, and you lose the queen. Yeah, you got to do this, and then you're in bad shape. Okay, so out of curiosity, okay, it had queen h1 as even for like a split second, but then I thought better of it, of course. Yes, you check or take here, and after takes, yeah, yeah, that's what I said, right? Rook h5. Otherwise, it's equal because you get to trade queens into a pre-equal rook endgame. So having seen this rook h5 is actually kind of important, and I'm actually a little proud of myself for spotting queen h1 as a potential resource. I'm guessing bishop e3 is similar. You take, and on take, you got to have this and then this. Okay, that I think was actually well done by me. I'm happy to have seen, I think, everything that I needed to see in that one. Now, for this one, pawn down, lots of stuff is hanging, obviously, such as my queen. Okay, so I was gonna say bishop d7. Um, I suppose fundamentally the problem is that okay, if knight d7, I can take on b4. If king d7, I don't have queen b4 because of knight d3. However, I might have c b4 because it makes a counter threat on their queen. So on knight c4, I have ba5 and I'm a piece up. Therefore, I don't think I can like. Okay, obviously, if I do like queen b4, you can trade queens and take on b5. If I go c b4, equally you can play queen takes b5. If nothing else, right? But by playing bishop takes d7, I am first of all removing that bishop from black being able to take it. And I don't know if the forcing his king to d7 becomes relevant in any line, but because the issue is right, if you do what I guess is the obvious, well, one of the obvious things to do, which is after bishop d7, king d7, queen d4 check. I thought he had bishop d6, which looks, I mean, precarious, but after like bishop a3, you probably have queen d5, and it doesn't seem like you're losing material straight away. Therefore, yeah, bishop d7, king d7, cb4, which looks a little bit odd, but like you don't have a queen check that you can then follow up by playing knight takes c4. And I mean you could like I don't suppose knight d3 really works. If queen d3, queen d3 is check as well. So there's no time for queen e5 and queen a1 or anything like that. So yeah, this seems like it works. Is there anything I needed to have seen? I don't think so. Because yeah, knight d7 right away I have thing takes here. You couldn't do this because of rook's, or no, because of queen e5, right? Okay, next one. Okay, I think I feel like I've solved it straight away because it's this and then c4 and then if the knight moves bishop a7, right? Yeah, I don't see a defense to that. This looks like it just wins a piece. Okay, that's cool. Very nice. I enjoy that. Ooh, I feel like in these situations where you have a rook endgame and you have the ability to trade rooks into a pawn endgame, disproportionately the answer is going to be to trade rooks. Now, I suppose, 'cause, yeah, I mean, I don't think rook back particularly does anything. I have a passed e pawn. He's got a majority on the queen side, but I mean, I don't think you can do anything with it without being able to bring your king this way. So the question is how to continue here. So trading on e2, I was kind of thinking I would go in some manner e5 and king g5 because I don't have opposition if I go with the king, like take king e4, king e3. But I'm a little confused whether I start with e5 or maybe I start king g5 for some reason. Take. Um, let's say e5 and you go whatever, king e3, king g5, king well, I was guessing king f3, e4 check, king e4, king g4, king f2. But what did I achieve by doing that? Because like if I go f4, I don't really like the scenario where white has the further outside pass pawn. So what am I missing? Oh, you know what? So okay. I can okay, take on e2, go king g5. Now, okay. Here's the thing. If king f3, if he goes king f3 directly, I can play e5. I can play yeah, e5, king wherever. King g4, king f2 to stop me from taking. Then I go e4, and then you're zugzwanged. Like, okay, king e3, king takes g3, and you're like extremely not in time with king d4 because I have like king f2 or whatever, and then I queen the e pawn. Okay, so take on e2, king g5, king f3. You got to take one. King e3. I mean, it's the same thing. A king f, a king g4. I make him play king f2, and then I push the e pawn until the king is forced away from f2. So it should be this, and it should be this first. So what was I trying before? I was doing this, and then this, and then e4, and then this and this. And I ran out of moves with my e pawn too soon, I think. So I need to keep all of that in reserve and just do this first. Now, wait. Okay, if I push my e pawn now, then this is the same thing that I tried before. It didn't work, I think. So I can go here, allow him to do this, take. If you take, um, am I in time with king g2? Like king g2, king d4, f4, c4, f3, c5, f2, c6. Yeah, I am in time, so this should work. And then if you go to f2, I zugzwang you by playing e5. And here, I think I'm just because my king supports the f pawn all the way. And same thing if you go here, I'm yeah, you're not in time to stop this. And equally, yeah, on take. I mean the e pawn. I mean I can go with the e pawn as well, but I think simplest was just this. And there's no way the king, my king covers all the squares it needs to. And you're one tempo too slow with the c pawn because you're meeting queen on f1 with c7, and then I have time to play queen c1 or whatever and prevent you from 2500 exactly. So that seems like as good a place as any to stop for now. Um, I think okay, that was a better tactic session than usual. Um, yeah, so that was fairly painless, and we'll see what I come back with tomorrow. Maybe something a bit harder, maybe not. We'll see.